Damon Martin, MMA Fighting, here with one of my favorite people to talk to in the entire combat sports world. He has a massive summer plan for BKFC. I welcome in BKFC president Dave Feldman. Dave, welcome back. And I tell you what, you did not disappoint on your upcoming cards.
Nah, they're going to be great, man. This one's a very stacked card, 4 championship bouts. Undercard is stacked, 14 total bouts, the most we've ever done on a card. This is going to be our first show, actually at the Hard Rock, the new Hard Rock Casino in Hollywood, Florida. We were toying around with capacity issues, and then they just flipped the switch and gave us 100% capacity. So, we're looking to have a full house there on June 26th in Hollywood, Florida at the Hard Rock Casino.
I love it. I love it. So let's get into a BKFC 18, 4 title fights. Obviously, also just announced today, Pearl Gonzalez is going to make her debut. I'm always curious when you book a lot of title fights on one card, because obviously you've got other cards to fill throughout the year. So you've always got to worry about, timing and things like that. What was the motivation, or what was the idea behind booking this many title fights on one card? Because you could have easily just done 2 here, 2 another one. You know what I mean? Like, you got 4 title fights. Like, every one of these fights could legitimately be a main event.
No, absolutely. You know what it is? I think a lot of people go, how do they do that? Or why are they doing that? But you know what I mean? And they've been doing that since we even started Bare Knuckle. But the reason is because we give the fans great events. And this is a great event. And I think it's something you never see four championship fights on any card in any combat sport in the world. So we wanted to try something that nobody else was trying. Just have one hell of a card for our debut at the Hard Rock Casino, and that's what we're doing. And then we move into July, have a great card, which we're going to talk about, and then August, another one, September in a new state, October in a new state. Did a new signing today, which we won't be able to get into until the next time I talk to you. But everything's going great, and we're just trying to put on great shows for the fans, and I think it shows in every one of our shows. And this one especially, I wanted this to be our biggest show ever, and I think this one's going to be our most attended show ever, and our most watched show ever. And then I think July we're gonna have a bigger attendance and more people watching. So
I love it. Let's get into BKFC 18. Let's talk about the title fights. Obviously, Joey Beltran at the top of the card, Sam Shoemaker. That's a phenomenal fight. Joey has been a guy who's really earned his place, in BKFC. Since coming there and becoming champion. I love this fight at the top of the card. And it feels like to me, this is a chance for Joey to really, kind of take that next step in terms of his star power as well, because he's going to have a lot of support behind him on this card.
Absolutely. There's going to be a lot of eyeballs there, a lot of media attention on this card. He's headlining it, which is well-deserved. I mean, he's a guy that we just throw people in front of him, and he finds a way to walk them down, and he just walks them down and he wins. And he's in a little bit of advanced age for a combat sport athlete. I think he's 40 now. I mean, it might be 41, but I was down in Miami last week and watched him spar, and he's learning new stuff every day. It's incredible what this guy's doing. It really is. And, I take my hat off to him, and he's got a tough challenge in front of him, a guy that's going to really bang it out with him, Sam Shoemaker. Again, we'll see if Sam has the endurance to withstand Joey Beltran, because so far nobody did. So if he does and comes out banging like he did in his last fight, it's going to be a tremendous fight. And I think it's a great one to headline this card.
Absolutely. There's always fights we can talk about, and we can talk about the nuance and the technicalities and all these kind of things. But I feel like Hector Lombard and Joe Riggs is a fight you just put in there and let them go, because I don't think we need to say much about those two guys. We know what they bring in here. This is a really fun fight. And I got to be honest, I did not see this one coming.
No, I mean, what happened is Joe Riggs has been doing this for a little bit. He did it in UK, and he did it with us. He's undefeated. He has 1 draw so far. And I'm just going to turn this off for you. I'm sorry. There you go. He has 1 draw. I think he's 5-0 with 1 draw, and Hector Lombard's 2-0. And we don't have to say much about Hector Lombard. I mean, everybody's chin who he touches collapses, and Joe Riggs really in the same way, and he really doesn't back down easily. It's going to be another great collision course. I mean, these guys have been around, and 2 really, really well-known guys that have been around for a long time, and now we're going to see who can capture the gold.
Yeah. The fight between Luis Palomino and Tyler Goodjohn's a lot of fun. I feel like in terms of name value, obviously Luis has made a big name for himself in BKFC, but in terms of the 4 title fights, this is the one that I feel like maybe is going to slip under the radar a little bit, but I feel like it's going to be a really good matchup. Luis has been incredible since coming to BKFC, everything he's done so far. But, Tyler Goodjohn coming off a big win in his last fight. He was a fun addition. I know we talked about him when you first signed him to BKFC. This is a really fun matchup, and I feel like it's kind of, as I said, it's going to be kind of the one slipping under the radar going into this card.
I think so. Tyler Goodjohn came over. He fought against Charles Bennett. He won a close decision over him on the show we did in Miami. A lot of people weren't very impressed with him. What they don't know is he came off of COVID. He was actually about 12 days from being tested negative for COVID after being tested positive. So he didn't really have a chance to get his endurance under him. He actually got caught up in the Las Vegas lifestyle and the Miami lifestyle, and he wasn't living right, to be frank. And I think this one, he's sending me over training videos every day. He's just a whole different guy, a whole different attitude. And you need to be a whole different guy and a whole different attitude to fight Luis Palomino. So, Luis Palomino just goes in there and he just mows guys down. So this is a tremendous matchup. I agree with you. I think it's one that kind of slips under the radar and may come out at the top of this event. But I'm looking forward to see this one too.
Yeah. Now I'd be lying. I mentioned how much, we don't really need to talk about, Hector Lombard and Joe Riggs, but I got to be honest. I think probably my favorite title fight of all these is Thiago Alves and Uli Diaz. I mean, we know what Diaz did, the viral 3-second knockout. Obviously, he's come under a lot of celebrity. He's got a celebrity girlfriend now, so he's kind of hitting the limelight a little bit. We know what Thiago Alves is about. Obviously, one of the greatest welterweights of all time, incredible. And I know obviously he had some learning lessons. He had to go through some bumps in the road in his debut. He did not have an easy fight in his debut, but he's coming back. And I don't know. I feel like this fight's either going to go all the way to the end or it's going to go 8 seconds in the first round. Whatever happens, it's going to be exciting.
No, absolutely. And, he's in with a solid, Uli Diaz is in with a solid veteran, Thiago Alves, as you said, one of the most tenured 170 pounders in the UFC's history. Here's a guy who, again, it's the same thing I said to him. I said, it's different. He said, no, I'm ready for this. I said, just let you know, it's different. It's a different sport. And they find that out, each one of them finds it out in a different way. Uli found it out on the plus side, and Thiago found it out that it was a little grittier than he thought. And he came back. He's in great shape. He learned from it, and it's going to be a tremendous fight. I mean, you got an old school guy who's been around for a long time and fought a lot of guys against a guy like Uli Diaz coming off a 3-second knockout and then coming off a first round knockout prior to that. Is Uli Diaz taking him lightly? Is he thinking he's going to walk in and knock him out? Because, is he reading his press clippings, or is he training his butt off, and is he going to come in and expect a war? We're going to see. I mean, that's a whole part of the intrigue of this whole entire sport and the promotion, and particularly this event on June 26th.
And that's a heck of a fight for the local audience as well. Obviously, Uli Diaz from the area. Thiago's from Brazil, but he's lived in Florida training the American top team for decades at this point. So I mean, that's a great local fight as well.
Absolutely. I think the fans are going to get behind this. They're excited about it. We have a real good marketing campaign going on down there. We're expecting it to be a really, really star-studded event. We're going to do a big VIP party the night before as an introduction to a lot of people at the Hard Rock. It's going to be a tremendous event. And then we have, as you mentioned, Pearl Gonzalez is fighting Carissa Sigala, who was one half of that tremendous fight on Knucklemania when she fought Taylor Starling. So that's going to be a tremendous fight. Again, it's a different sport. So Pearl Gonzalez is a tough person. She's up there training with Amanda Serrano in New York now. So we're going to see. I mean, is she going to be ready for bare knuckle? We're going to see, if she has what it takes. And Carissa Sigala actually sent her a poster today and talked to her, and she said, I'm giving you more of a show than I ever gave you, boss. So, we'll see what happens. That's one I'm really, really excited about. And then just so many of the undercard fights. So like I said, we have the 4 co-main events, if you will, and then we have 10 fights on the undercard, which is just going to be a tremendous show, Damon.
Yeah, absolutely. We talked about this when you signed Paige VanZant, that there's no easy fights in BKFC, and you're not out there to make anyone an easy fight. And I saw that when you guys announced the Pearl Gonzalez fight today, because I have a tremendous amount of respect for Pearl. She's an incredible fighter, but when I saw the matchup, I was like, geez, because obviously that fight with Sigala and Taylor Starling on the massive card Knucklemania, that ended up stealing the show. That fight was a freaking bloody war. Amazing fight. You're doing again, you're not giving Pearl an easy matchup, on day one. You're giving her a very, very tough fight. And I guess that's kind of the point. If you come to BKFC, there's not going to be any easy matchups.
Now, you know what's funny? We're talking to some other guys about doing some partnerships with some other things, some musical groups and things like that. And it's just not going to work. We know we got to remember who we are. We're fast paced excitement. We're unbelievable action. We're great fights. We're competitive, and we just got to stay that way. And we pay guys and girls pretty damn good. So because of that, we expect them to come out and fight, and they do. But they're going to have tough fights in front of them because that's what's building the sport, and that's what's making us, as we're known as the fastest growing sport in the world. But really, we're the most exciting sport in the world, without a doubt. I mean, I don't care what sport you like. If you watch this, it's excitement. You sit on the edge of your seat the entire event long. With that being said, I'm expecting something really good from Pearl, and we'll see what happens because I think Carissa has once you experience this, you adapt a little bit, and Pearl hasn't yet. It's different getting hit with a bare knuckle. So we're going to see what happens. But I expect Pearl to do really, really well. She's training really, really hard. She's super excited to be the face of the women's division. So, we're going to see what happens.
Yeah. Let me ask you about that because we talked a lot last year when you guys signed Paige VanZant and the reason behind signing Paige. And listen, she's been a tremendous superstar and a tremendous asset for you guys. And I'll get to her fight in a second, but obviously you've added some more talent, to that division with, Rachel Ostovich, who's going to be fighting Paige. We'll come back to that in a second. Obviously Pearl Gonzalez. What is has that been a big part of what BKFC is doing right now is building up those women's divisions? Because obviously you do have tremendous talent there. We already know Britain Hart's out there. You had Bec Rawlings. Has that been a big focus lately, adding to those women's divisions?
Yeah, no, absolutely it has. I mean, the crazy thing about it is people watch this and then they see two, fairly attractive women or very attractive women, depending on who's fighting and when they're fighting and whatever your viewpoint is. But we have some pretty good looking women that fight for this organization. With that being said, I think people are surprised that they see not that these women are fighting bare knuckle, but how they're fighting bare knuckle. They're sitting in there and they're banging it out with each other and they're coming out with a swollen eye, a cut on their face, whatever it may be. And they're given the same or more intensity and more action than the men. So I think that's the surprise of this thing. And because of that, we're getting a lot of intrigue in the women. So we're signing a lot more women. And we're actually in talks about bringing Bec back as well, put her back in the mix of this thing. So, it's just really, really exciting. I mean, you're going to have, like I said, Rachel Ostovich, Paige VanZant, Bec Rawlings, Britain Hart, all these other fighters, Taylor Starling, Carissa Sigler, all these other fighters that we're signing now, Pearl Gonzalez, that are coming into this entire mix of the women's division. It's making it a really, really exciting division, to watch, and we're building up other weights as well. So I'm just excited about the women's division because I think it's more of like a shocker to these people when they say, wow, these girls are fighting, and then, wow, they're fighting like that. So I think that's what's giving the intrigue to this, Damon.
Yeah, let me backtrack there. You mentioned Bec Rawlings. I had talked to Bec last year before, right after you signed Paige. I'm sure you saw the article. She said, she didn't expect Paige to do great in BKFC. And she's like, I would love to get that rematch because obviously Paige holds a win over her in UFC. You mentioned Bec. Is that something that we could see in the near future? Not necessarily Bec and Paige, but could we see Bec Rawlings back in the BKFC ring?
Yeah, I think you're going to. We're in talks right now. We're going to see what can happen. I know she's under contract with Bellator, but Bellator has been great to work with. So I think there's a way of slipping her back in here and getting her into the mix, and then seeing what happens. It's be great to have her back. She is known as the Queen of Bare Knuckle. She's undefeated with her organization. She's 3-0. It looks like she really found her home and found her place in bare knuckle fighting. So it'd be great to get her back. And I think it's something. I know it's something we're working on. I think it's something that you're going to see by the end of the summer.
Absolutely. I love that. And obviously she was the champ. I mean, she fought Britain Hart and obviously she wants that rematch with Paige. So, I mean, there's a lot of storylines on day one when she comes in.
Yeah, absolutely, Damon. But let's not forget, sometimes I think people forget about Britain Hart a little bit. She flew under the radar a little bit, beat Paige VanZant. But there's someone that I saw her in Miami too, training her ass off, and I can't wait to see her get back. She's going to actually be on that card because, set up maybe a potential rematch with Paige, but we're going to put her on the July 23rd card as well.
I love it. I was actually getting ready to ask about that. Does she have an opponent yet, or is that still being worked on?
She's going to fight Jenny Savage. Jenny Savage is a girl who fought on one of our cards. She's 1-0 with us right now. Britt's, I think, 2-2 right now. So, it's going to be an intriguing matchup. And with these women, you just never know what's going to happen on any given night.
Well, there's some bad blood there. We saw that in the last one. They got some bad blood there. So I think it's a natural to put that fight together, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, we do need to promote these events and to get some storylines with them, and that one already has one. And then, could it lead into the rematch? Who knows, right? So they're going to be on that undercard. Could some other potential fighters? Taylor Sterling will be fighting on that card. So is that going to lead into possible fight with Paige, Rachel? Who knows who's going to win that one, right? I mean, they both are getting better at their striking. I mean, that's a fight that I think I took everybody by surprise when I announced that one. I don't think anyone was expecting that.
Yeah, well, let's talk about that real quick, because obviously Paige coming back, we said it after her first fight, and I really do believe this. She seemed to finally find her footing, in that fifth round with Britt. She finally got comfortable. And again, I don't want to keep saying it over and over again, but bare knuckles just a different animal. You don't know what you're getting into until you get in there, because we got to be honest, you can't train bare knuckle. You just can't do it the way that, until you get in there. You don't know what it's like until you're really in there. And she had her best round in the fifth round. She started to kind of find herself, got her defense down. She started throwing punches. She looked good. Now, Rachel's going to kind of be in that same situation that Paige was in the last time around. This is obviously a rematch, but this is, listen, I know you got Paige for a multi-fight deal and you're invested in Paige, but I got to be honest, Dave, I feel like this might be a make or break moment for Paige, right? Because she's got to win here. Because this is set up, this is a fight this is a rematch. Obviously, Rachel's coming in debuting. Am I wrong? Is this a bit of a must win for Paige?
Yeah, I agree on that, Damon, 100%. The thing I always said about Paige is I took my hat off to her because, again, she didn't have to do this, right? She didn't have to fight bare knuckle. She could have chose a different path, and she always challenges herself. And the reason why I'm saying that is, she can't say, "I'll do better next time. I'll do better next time." If she loses, right? She can't say that. This is probably a win or go home for her, probably. And I think that I know that she changed her trainer. She went to a historic boxing trainer in Miami that trained a lot of international world champions. She's trying to up her game. She's trying to make herself better. So, I'm really excited to see the new Paige VanZant. I know that Rachel Ostovich is had a lot of fight in her life. Her family's into fighting. Her dad has a promotion. He trains fighters, and I think that they're going to put themselves in the best position to win this fight too. So I'm really, really excited to see that fight. As a fan, I think that one's going to be tremendous. I think a lot of people are going to tune in for that fight. I think that could be our most tuned into fight to date.
Yeah, that's a big one. And Rachel's Hawaiian. We know how tough Hawaiians are. Like I said, that's kind of built into that culture.
Absolutely. No, 100% it is, Damon. Just the whole women's division is heating up. The whole thing's really heating up. Bare knuckle in general is heating up with Game Bred MMA, bare knuckle coming out. It's all heating up. As, by the way, that one will air on the BKTV app. So we have a partnership with those guys. Bare knuckle in general, the sport is evolving. It's evolving fast. It's really spreading globally. We just inked a big time deal in Russia right now to produce events in Russia and streaming in Russia. So there's just so many things going on globally for the entire sport and our organization. And really, I couldn't be happier in the position that we are in right now to really finish out 2021 in great fashion. And I think 2022 is our real breakout year.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. When we talked early in the year, we talked about how big Knuckle Mania was going to be and how that was going to be kind of one of the big marquee events of 2021. Now here we are. You got 4 title fights on BKFC 18. And correct me if I'm wrong, and I know obviously you can break some news right here with me because I love breaking news, but I've heard, correct me if I'm wrong, I've heard BKFC 19 is going to be big too. I know Paige is already on there. You mentioned obviously Britton Hart's going to be on there. You mentioned Taylor Sterling, but I've heard there might be some other things in the work for BKFC 19. Am I wrong?
I promise I would love to break it for you. It's just the I's and the I's aren't dotted and the T's aren't crossed yet. So I can't drop it. I could be jeopardized a bit. Yes, some big things are in store for that. And then we have something huge that we're planning in October that I mentioned to you before. So if we can get that one going, I think we're going to close out the year in great fashion. We've got a great team behind us. We just added a lot more team members in. We just went through our series of funding. Everything is just going great for us right now. And we're just looking forward to really take the combat sports world by storm a little more for the end of 21 and into 22. And, like I said, I'm happy at the involvement of the sport in general and especially of BKFC.
Absolutely. So with that, you can't break the news, but I'll ask you this. You mentioned to me before, Paige, when she would return, you told me before Rachel Ostovich got booked that probably wouldn't end up being the main event. Am I safe in assuming that while Paige and Rachel will be at BKFC 19, is there still a main event to be announced?
Yeah, there's a main event to be announced, of course, but I think the excitement behind Paige versus Rachel had to get leaked out. So we made sure that one got leaked out. And as soon as this contract's signed, we will announce the main event to that card.
I love it. I love it. You mentioned a minute ago working with Gamebred, Fighting Championships, which is George Masvidal's new promotion. Of course, they announced their first main event, Jason Knight and Charles Bennett, two guys you're obviously very familiar with. That was interesting to me on a couple of levels because obviously you guys are going to be broadcasting it. Obviously, I know we've talked about bringing Jason Knight back to BKFC at some point, and obviously Charles just fought for you guys fairly recently. You mentioned the fight with Tyler Goodjohn. What was it like? How did that come about? And can I assume that you're working with them? You're in a way kind of rooting for them because I mean it's not exactly what you guys are doing. Obviously, it's bare knuckle MMA. It's a unique thing, but you're working with them, so obviously you're not seeing them necessarily as a direct competitor.
Yeah, I don't think it's a direct competitor. It's MMA. I think it's more of a direct competitor to Bellator or the UFC. I don't think it's a direct competitor to us. I think it's good competition in a way. It's where people will hear the word bare knuckle, whether it's our fighting organization or theirs, but they'll hear bare knuckle more and more and more. So I think that's going to help us. It's a good relationship that we have with them. We're going to be streaming their events and hopefully people tune in and watch this thing. I am rooting for them. I really root. I'm one of those guys, man. I root for everybody that puts on a great show because even all those other bare knuckle guys that came and went, if they put on a good show, I'm rooting for them because that means more and more people are going to talk about bare knuckle. And right now, we're lucky enough to sit at the top of the mountain on BKFC with BKFC for bare knuckle fighting in the world. But there's a lot of other competitors that as we evolve are going to start trying to chase us. So for us to kind of all capture it all on BKTV, we're lucky enough to kind of have that underneath our umbrella and inside of our family.
Yeah, we mentioned this before with some other bare knuckle promotions and things starting. I mean, we got to be honest. There probably wouldn't be a Gamebred FC if it wasn't for BKFC. That attention that you guys have brought in and gotten, that's going to help them, do what they're doing. And that's, competition's a good thing. Although again, I don't, as you said, not necessarily direct competition, but I think that's awesome. Like I said, I don't think they exist without BKFC, and that's got to feel good with the influence you've had.
No, absolutely. I mean, it feels good, but all that feel good stuff is great, but it doesn't pay the bills. I mean, I read press clippings all the time and I'm like, wow, I can't believe what we accomplished. And I'm like, no, my bank account doesn't match it yet. So I'm trying to, get there and build this thing to the next level. I think have a great trajectory to do that right now and to align ourselves with someone like George Masvidal and Dean Toole, these guys that are behind this organization. It's great to be aligned with those guys and to be able to do what we need to do. And to have it all, like I said, underneath the umbrella of BKTV, it's only going to blow up the app. It's only going to put more eyes on bare knuckle, and it's going to help the sport evolve.
Absolutely. Let me ask you this before I get you out here, Dave. We talked about this before when you had Chris Lieben coming up for his final fight, and we talked after he retired and continued to be in the Chris Lieben business. And I know you've seen on social media the buzz. He was trying to get that fight with Jake Paul. And I'm curious, as a promoter and a guy who's been around boxing and as a guy who's been obviously around BKFC, you've obviously built your promotion around real fights, but there's an entertainment factor. We can't deny that. I mean, listen, Paige VanZant is a massive star. You would love for her to turn into a champion as well, but we can't deny the fact that she is a star and there's an entertainment factor there. Now, I'm not saying you're going to go out and sign the next YouTube celebrity to come in and fight in BKFC, but where do you fall on this argument about like entertainment versus sport? Because listen, they just announced Jake Paul and Tyron Woodley today. Now I'm all for it. I don't care. You make your money. I'm not going to fault someone for making a paycheck. And even though a lot of people hate Jake Paul, I'm not going to fault the guy for making money. If you can make money by fighting Nate Robinson and Ben Askren and Tyron Woodley, good for you. I'm never going to fault you for that. I don't think that takes away from what other people are doing. But where do you fall in that argument? Like, I know it's Grant. I'm getting you a gotcha question here, Dave. But like, would you ever do business with the Paul brothers? Like, would you ever want to be in that business?
I mean, look, here's what it's doing. It's bringing eyeballs to the sport of boxing, or, just combat sports, and it's generating money. He's fighting real fights. I mean, although fighting Ben Askren, a guy who doesn't even really know how to throw a punch, knocking him out, I wouldn't really pat yourself on the back for that. But Tyron Woodley, he's a guy who can bang. He's a guy who was former UFC champion, has been in there with everybody with his hands and banging. So that's a real fight that Jake Paul has on his hands. So if he's able to come out victorious on that fight, you have to start taking him serious. And I don't mean saying, oh my God, Jake Paul's the next best thing in boxing, but hey, Jake Paul has some potential here to have a good boxing career. You have to say that. And if you don't, then you're just hating on the guy. Would I do business with them? Absolutely, I do business with them. But I'm not taking away from what BKFC is, what it is built, and what people are looking forward to it to continue to be. So I'm not going to do anything to take away from that. If it was something else that we did as a sideshow to bring more eyeballs to the sport, yeah, of course we would do that. But, at the end of the day is I take my hat off to these guys. The one thing I always said about Jake Paul and even his brother Logan, who I'll be at that fight, at the Mayweather fight, we have one of our fighters fighting Chad Ochocinco.
Absolutely.
So I'm going to be at that fight. And what you have to say about these guys is even what they built with their YouTube thing, they work tirelessly. They work really, really hard, and they want to be the best at what they can be. And that doesn't look, I'm not saying that being a YouTube guy, working hard at that translates into boxing, but they're putting the same amount of work and effort into trying to be a boxer that they did into that. So chances are they're going to have some kind of success here. Again, Logan Paul, I think he's walking up a steep uphill battle to fight, even do an exhibition with Floyd Mayweather. But I really think Jake Paul truly has his hands full with Tyron Woodley, someone who we would love to get in BKFC one day.
Yeah, it's funny you say that. Now, listen, I'm always going to be a BKFC guy. I love BKFC, but your guy is fighting Chad Ochocinco. I'm Cincinnati. I'm from Cincinnati, so of course, I gotta edge a little bit towards my Bengal. You know what I mean? I got to do it, man. I'm sorry.
All right, David. I know you love us, so I'm going to get slide on that one. But hey, I'm really interested to see what Ochocinco brings to the table. I mean, look, he's fighting Brian Maxwell, great guy. I mean, if he catches Brian Maxwell and knocks him out for some reason, I mean, really hats off to Ochocinco for coming over to the combat sports world and performing. But I think it's going to be a great event. It's going to have a lot of eyeballs on it, and at the end of the day, that's what it's really about. But you can't have eyeballs without substance, because the eyeballs won't last. So you have to be able to give them substance. And if it's I know the undercard is pretty good. I actually know that they just lost one of their supporting bouts. So, did you hear that? I think it was.
Yeah, I do. I did hear that. I did know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Something happened with him. But anyway, I'm looking forward to that event. I'm looking forward to seeing Jake Paul fight Tyron Woodley. Hopefully, Woodley is up for this challenge. And, I think Jake Paul's future world champion? No, I don't. But do I think that he's got the potential of making a little bit of noise in boxing? I absolutely do. And I take my hat off to them guys. I really, truly do.
Yeah, it's funny. It's vastly different situations. So I don't want people to be like, oh God, I can't believe you put these two guys in the same sentence. But I think about years ago, the late, great, rest in peace, Kimbo Slice, when he was coming up, obviously, again, what he did in the UFC, things like that are great. But could you imagine a guy like Kimbo Slice, coming to BKFC at that point? Because that guy was built for BKFC. I'm always sad. I knew Kimbo a little bit. He was such a great guy. And obviously, George got his start working with Kimbo back in the day. And that's a celebrity. That's the guy I would think, man, that would be a guy built for BKFC back in the day. If BKFC had been around.
Absolutely, 100%, man. I would love to have had the ability to have Kimbo Slice fight for us. I actually met him and talked to him, and then unfortunately he passed. But that would have been amazing to have him there. He kind of gave me the idea of this thing, along with Bobby Gunn, who's a bare knuckle fighter himself. So it would have been great to have him involved. But I mean, look, like I said, all these little things that are popping up here and there. That have even bare knuckle in the sentence in the name. It's great for the sport, and it's going to be great for what we're building here, Damon.
Absolutely. Well, Dave, it's always a pleasure to catch up. I look forward to BKFC 18. I look forward to BKFC 19. We generally talk before every card, so I can't wait to catch up with you after these next ones because this is going to be a very, very big summer for you guys. Thank you as always for taking the time. Look forward to the shows, and I look forward to chatting again real soon.
I mean, Damon, thank you so much for your support as always.